random from that national mailbag. The answer will be given by the man appointed by the President to direct the programs of rationing, rent, and price control.
So, just leaving Comic-Con, gonna get some food.
We went for 2 hours and now we're done.
Yeah, it's breakfast time, and we're going to Lolita's to get burritos. We already bought books because, you know, that's what you buy at Comic-Con. I got a Doctor Who book written partially by Douglas Adams, and Sarah?
I got Sandman Volume 3 in the cover that matches the rest of my collection, finally.
Yes.
And I got Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Shaw.
That's good. So, that's the con. So, checking in Comic-Con, walking the hall.
Day 1.
Day 2, Duck Dynasty. We just brought some art. Some right here. Upside down, but that side. We got Game of Thrones as babies. And then we have Firefly as babies as well. Very swag.
And I got Jon Snow.
Yep. And I got a Louise/Tina print. And we just saw Kumail Nanjiani or something like that. He's a good guy. We didn't bother him, even though I wanted to for a little bit. But Sarah was like, no, you shouldn't. It's good. We're enjoying the con. And I like that guy's robe. Anyways. And now we're gonna go sit down and read chew number 50. I'm probably gonna freak out at the end. Okay. Waiting for a panel. About what is it about?
Queer representation in all youth media, I think, is the title.
We're talking about baby.
All of us who were queer like had an issue with growing up. You would read all these stories and you would have to read like in between the lines. You would have to create kind of queerness or see things that I remember in superhero comics. Literally, like there would be kind of things that now I would look at as homophobic, where characters would kind of make fun of each other for like a kind of gay thing they did, and I'd be like, ooh, maybe, and like, and I would latch on to that because it was even in those moments, that was the only recognition that I was a part of this world, this fictional world that I was reading. And the other edge of it, I think, it's kind of cultural normalization that is so incredibly important, because I think that when a group is othered by the culture, they're othered because there's a core fear there, and with queerness, it's all rooted in a fear of a kind of sex that isn't what they perceive as what they want or anything, and it literally frightens them.
I think it even is simpler than that. Like it is a fear of sex.
Right.
Because queerness is in these people's minds, no matter what, queerness is sexual.
Right.
And it's learning how to certain batches of rules, I think.
Exactly.
Heteronormativity, because it's just like, well, I've always accepted that this is a man, this is a woman, and they do this together, and now you're saying that it's not like that, and that challenges all kinds of perceptions, just in the world that we have.
Yeah, and I think that and where we're seeing that even today, because I think we can all recognize that there's a real progression happening in terms of baseline gay and lesbian queerness in the media. It's starting to happen. We're starting to see things like in Cora, it's just holding hands, but it's still a step, and it still means a lot. And I think that where there's still a lot of room to grow is transgender issues in all ages media. I think that makes an executive's head explode, because even in interviews right now, people who are genderqueer, they can't go sit through an interview without someone trying to get them to talk about whether they've gone through surgery or anything, things they have no right to know. And it's just I think nobody understands how can you write a 13-year-old who's going through that, and the way you do it is you just do it, and you write them as people, as a part of our world.
So just went to a queer, gender, all sorts of representation panel.
So what did you think, Orlando?
It was really good. It was kind of Sarah's pick,
Yes.
but I enjoyed it a lot more than the fucking IDW one.
And Orlando's pick?
Yes.
What does that tell you? Just trust Sarah?
No, not always. I'm sure there are other times where my pick is good. Anyways, it was a good panel. It seemed like a lot more people showed up to that panel than they did the IDW panel, even though this is Comic-Con. So I think that's kind of cool.
They were talking about comics, though. They were talking about queer representation, well, in all youth media, but they all wrote comics.
It didn't seem specific to comics, though. Yeah, I know, but
they talked about Steven Universe and stuff.
Yeah,
but it was pretty specific to comics, I thought.
Yeah, I mean, fairly, but IDW is a big publisher. I guess it's, I don't know.
Yeah.
It was cool though. I'm glad we went. We're here at the Salute Spot, best spot in all of Convention Center. One time I threw a dime down there, almost hit somebody, but luckily I didn't. And this is a salute symbol. Yep, right there. We marked that baby I don't know, 7 years ago, maybe, something like that.
That's some history.
Yep, history lesson for you high schoolers in AP history class. So yeah, pretty much we're almost done with this day. We're gonna go watch Phil Plait in Nerd of Science. That'll be cool.
Excited.
Yeah, me too. Hopefully we can talk to Phil. He's a good guy. Yeah,
Yeah, I follow him on Twitter, so he knows who I am. He responded to me the other day, so he knows me.
Yeah.
Obviously.
So it'll be fun.
Yeah.
We just got 2 hours to go. We're gonna read. What are we gonna read?
Maybe Rat Queens. I just bought this today.
Sorry if this is backwards. We're selfie mode right now.
We don't know.
So it's Rat Queens.
Yep.
Seems cool. It's got a lot of leading. It's got a lot of female.
Protagonists.
Yeah. So that's good.
Yeah.
I'm sure the panelists at our last panel would agree that it's a good representation. I don't think you see a lot of like female representation in comics.
Yeah, no, I mean it's good to see like it might be like an all-female led cast, so
Yeah.
that's good and maybe a little unusual, I would think.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if there's. Anyways, it's good. We're gonna enjoy it. Check it out. We haven't read it, but check it out. It's. About to watch Nerd Science. Film play.
What do you see? What are some of the highlights of science being featured in the Marvel universe? Are there any things that is done quite right, or even quite wrong? That's cool.
Yes. A lot of the stuff that's done right is done specifically with the direct influence of the science advisors that the movies had. And that if you watch the movies, you see that shining through a lot. And the example I always use is Thor, where Sean Carroll was the advisor, and Jane Foster was a nurse in the comics. And in the movies, she's an astrophysicist, slightly different. You need a good education for both of them, and you need a lot of the same qualifications.
She did first aid.
Yeah, exactly. But in that case, it's because, look, if we're going to make the bridge to the different realms a wormhole, essentially, an Einstein-Rosen bridge, then if she's an astrophysicist, she can be looking for these things. And then it all ties in, and then it makes sense that she's there when Thor shows up. So what you've got is just the perfect amalgamation of science and story, where you change the science a little bit, and the story basically forms around it, and it works. And when it does work like that, I love it, because I can see that as a scientist and someone who appreciates the story, but also as a moviegoer, it feels natural. It's like, yes, this makes sense that it would happen that way. I love all of that. You can pick that out in all the different movies as well. Where maybe they should have talked to me first.
Come on, let's have it.
Would be in Ultron, where he carves a chunk out of the earth and lifts it up, and it's going to let it go so that it falls to the ground like an asteroid impact. And it's like, that's an awfully elaborate way of avoiding an asteroid impact. There are asteroids out there. Poke them, and they'll fall towards the earth. I don't see about like carving up an entire village and dropping it. It's just, that one didn't make sense to me.
The potential energy alone required to lift something that heavy.
Exactly.
That was my
second thought. Yeah. And so my first thought is, why would you do this when there are asteroids out there?
Yeah.
And the second thought was, the amount of energy it takes to sort of scoop up that much of the planet, lift it up that high, is the amount of energy you will get when it falls back to the ground. That is essentially, by definition, a zero-sum game.
Zero-sum, right? Supervillain plan.
And in fact, you lose a little bit of energy through various things. So whatever it is you're using to scoop up that thing, just let it explode. It will do the same thing.
But then Ultron wasn't an artificial intelligence. Maybe he was like an artificial dumbass.
Maybe he's listening. Shush. Well, Ultron did have a flair for the dramatic, so I have to assume that's where that was coming from.
This is Vaderbot.
We didn't think it.
Okay, this is the Okay, this is the last vlog
Low battery.
of day 1 / actually day 2 of Comic-Con.
2015.
Yep.
10th year anniversary,
Yep.
but 9 years coming.
That's not accurate.
Okay.
So what do we do after the last update? Orlando.
Well, do you count my Phil Plate update as our update?
What?
I took a little mini one of Phil Plate and us and me saying.
Oh yeah. Okay. Well, what do we do before that?
Okay.
And what do we do after that?
Okay. Well, we saw Nerdist news
Yeah.
panel.
Yeah.
with a bunch of people we didn't know, but it was really cool. You know,
Yeah.
I talked a lot about like shows and movies and stuff, like pop culture, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But it was really cool and informative and funny.
They were really funny, and it was like very entertaining, and like they had high energy, so it was good because I was getting pretty tired. I felt like.
Yeah, it was good. I mean, we kind of just sat through it so that we could wait for the Nerdist Science panel, but it was definitely a good panel to sit through.
And then Nerdist Science with a special guest.
Sorry.
I'm perfect at camera angles, Orlando. Why are you correcting?
Yes. Phil Plate.
Phil Plate, bad astronomer of Crash Course Astronomy, which I love. Yeah, so that was pretty cool. A lot of people talking about science, and they were talking specifically about science in the Marvel Universe, I think, mostly. At least for part of it. And yeah, it was cool.
Yeah,
It was cool.
a lot of cool scientists.
Yeah.
I asked a question.
He did.
Probably made a fool of myself.
I'm
but
gonna insert footage here.
link in the doobly-doo.
So my question is, I'm a fan of like science history, and so I was thinking like even with movies like The Imitation Game, do you think like Hollywood might tend towards more like science history movies? And if so, are there any examples of films you'd like to see?
No, I like that. I like that. What, you know, the story of Alan Turing is so compelling, and I mean, this brilliant man who started so much and then was persecuted for who he was, and you know, it's a great story. Are there any like great narratives of scientists or sciencey people that you guys would like to see?
This little chapter in the history of the space program that Zach has found just endlessly fascinating. We would love to do a movie about it. It's got a perfect beginning, middle, and character motivation, and it even has like Animal House-esque antics with scientists, which is always hilarious. It's about the Orion Project, right? Which was basically about all of these nuclear scientists, brilliant dudes, who wanted to use nuclear bombs to send man into space. And it's just such a fantastic story. I mean, you've got these guys like, you know, they're like stealing explosives from military bases, and they're lighting cigarettes with, you know, with the heat and with the light from nuclear explosions using a mirror, and then getting really nervous and accidentally smoking the cigarette. I mean, that's good stuff, man.
And Jack Parsons, who was one of the founding people at JPL, who was there's a book about him called Strange Angel that was great, who was completely genius, who invented rocket fuel, basically, and he and his friends would go out into the desert and blow shit up, and they're part of a club called the Suicide Club, you know, because they would almost get themselves blown up all the time, and then he also happened to be in this massive cult, like sexual, weird stuff that was going on, and then he ended up blowing himself up in the garage. You know, just great stuff like that. No matter what, no matter how interesting the scientists or how amazingly earth-shattering the changes that happened after their discovery came to be, I think what's important is that it has to feel really relevant to the time now. You know, otherwise it's like, why not just watch a documentary? I think one of the things that was great about the Imitation Game is that it was really exploring, you know, the other and stigma and somebody who was dealing with being different than other people in a very specific way, and along with all these other high stakes and emotional things. But it felt relevant, it felt fresh in that it was a new take kind of on the story of a genius scientist who saves the day kind of thing. So I think that any movie that comes about, because trust me, I have a lot of biopics about scientists or true histories of people in aviation or space, and I think the thing that makes it really important for people to see is something that makes it relevant to whatever's going on right now.
Also explosions.
Explosions.
Yeah, you're talking about it from a story standpoint. The thing about Project Orion too is that it would work. The only downside of it is you have to blow up a bunch of nuclear weapons to get this thing up into space. But other than that,
because of the test ban treaty, that was it. Yeah, that was the only reason why it didn't proceed. Those guys scared the crap out of JFK trying to get funding for this thing. They went in, and what they pitched JFK was this, essentially a floating battle station, the freaking Death Star in space, the ultimate, nuclear response capability, just in orbit. Actually, not even in orbit, my God, like halfway to the moon, with nuclear missiles aimed at the Soviet Union. And as soon as they left, JFK was like, never bring those people back to my office again. It's amazing.
I'd want to hear that story. Thank you so much for your question.
But I asked about science
Ooh.
history.
Yeah.
And they told me, watch a documentary, you piece of shit. And they also recommended the Orion space program, which I think I'm probably going to look into more. So.
Well, they were saying, one person was saying that they thought that would make a good movie, right? Or the story of that would make a
really
good movie. So there's not like currently a movie, I don't think.
Yeah, but they were saying that it could be.
Yeah.
So yeah, a good panel.
Yeah. And
hosted or moderated by Thor.
actual Thor.
Actual Thor.
Yeah. And now we're gonna go home.
I'm not gonna go. Probably gonna go with my friends.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Probably maybe play some melee. Maybe drink some beer, a little bit of beer.
All right.
Maybe get some tajimas. Okay. We're gonna
Bye.
see you day 3, Orlando and Sarah. Because we're the only ones watching these videos.
All right.
Hello, future Orlando and Sarah.
Hello.
I like to talk to my future self with certain things.
Yeah?
Yeah, like sometimes like in like old like high school books,
Yeah?
I'll like mark a note and then I'll be like, I'll say something like some blah 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 future Orlando, and then I'll look at the notebook like 5 years later and I'll be like, oh cool, I'm calling out to my future self, and it's like, yeah, I'm in the future.
It's like in 8th grade when Miss Johnston, I think, made us write like letters to ourselves in like 5 years or something, and then they actually got mailed to our house, as long as you didn't move, obviously.
I don't think that happened to me.
Oh yeah, I got mine, and it was so embarrassing. It was so. I never read Twilight. Don't you know me at all? Actually,
Well,
that's not true. I did read Twilight because
Yes,
Sergio made me
yes.
sign a contract,
Oh,
but I was just
you
being,
lied.
what's the word? Like, no. I mean, I signed a contract, so I had to read it. I was just,
No, yeah, that's
you know,
understandable. Yeah.
God, I can't think of the word. But I read it. I didn't like it. I didn't read anymore. And you should know that.
Sorry.
Because one of the first times you ever talked to me, senior high, was,
Oh, yeah.
don't read Twilight.
I tore up the contract, didn't I?
You
I
stole it
it.
from Sergio's. Yeah, you stole it from Sergio's binder.
I did not want
and
you to suffer that.
Yeah, and
think I
then
gave it back.
later Sergio was like, "Where'd it go?" And like I knew you had stolen it because you told me, and then I didn't tell him, and it was like our very first inside joke.
Yeah. I think I gave it back though, but
Yeah.
maybe I shouldn't.
Yeah. Anyways.
So tomorrow we got some more sci-fi.
Sci-fi, fantasy, signings. It's all over the place. It's gonna be great.
Those lights are aliens shining lights on us. Just so you
Aliens.
know.
We're being taken away.
They like, okay, let's look at this, like, nah, they're not nearly as interesting enough.
Yeah.
They want the cosplayers dressed as like Ant-Man and, you know, all the other cosplays.
Yeah. Anyways. Okay.